So I'm going to talk to you about AI. I'm from a company called Remote. My wife and I started it back in 1999. Been in Shropshire all the company's lives. We moved here back in 1997. So we manage a team of 20 programmers, designers, marketers, strategists, lovers, fighters, geeks who work with companies to use software to optimize their business workflow. So as you can imagine, over the last couple of years, AI has really stepped into our world. And so I've been asked to talk about where it's coming from and where it's going and how it's going to affect the future of the workplace. And of course, in this environment today, what the opportunities are for the county, for the region. So that's me, in case you were wondering what I look like. There's a picture of me. But yeah, look at the email address and X address if you want to get in touch and talk about all this kind of stuff later. So we're a software development studio. So we work with companies like Volvo, Sony, Volkswagen Group, Tesco, Mitsubishi, as well as tech startups and medium-sized companies in the region. Can I ask who has intentionally used an AI-based tool in their workplace to date? So stick your hands up if you would say that you do that on a regular basis. And keep your hands up if we're talking about ChatGPT at this point. See, what's amazing is, obviously, artificial intelligence has been around since the 60s, right? But what ChatGPT has done in the last year is raise the level of accessibility massively. And that's what I'm going to focus on, because I think that unlocks the key to where we're going with all this. Obviously, AI encompasses a huge amount of things. My company, we've been using AI since we started in 1999 when we're talking about logic trees. But now when we're talking about AI, we're talking about machine learning, we're talking about neural networks, we're talking about natural language recognition. But it does encompass a whole lot more. Who's played with Midjourney? What a mind-blowing tool. Type in a sentence, type in a description, and you get photorealistic images come up in a matter of seconds. That's fun, it's powerful, it's making massive, massive headway in the design industry. But most of us, generally, we're working in offices, we're not creating graphics and that kind of stuff. But it's really good to understand what's possible in the field of vision, because the field of vision and large language models, which is what ChatGPT is about, and I'm going to explain all this in a moment, they're really coinciding. What we're doing is programming giant computer brains to learn the way that we learn. They're learning the way we teach our kids words and sentences and how to draw. Runway's an incredible tool that hasn't reached massive popularity yet, but you can upload an image and it will turn it into a 3 to 5 second video. So people are creating entire Hollywood-like trailers from uploading images, and it turns them into video. It's mind-blowing, and it's available for £10 a month or something. It's incredible. So I mentioned ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a large language model. For those of you who haven't yet used it, there's a free layer, and then there's a paid layer, £10 a month, something like that, which has more advanced capabilities. You can talk to it, and it behaves as if it's a human, because it's learnt language as if it was a human. The first experience that anyone has with a large language model, specifically ChatGPT, obviously Google has its own version, and there are various others, Anthropic and so on, is that it feels like it's alive. It feels like it knows what you're talking about, and it understands what it's talking about, and it seems to know a lot more than us too. That can be a little bit unnerving. And of course, these things aren't alive yet. And so I think it'll be really important to just talk about what's going on behind the scenes and how we can utilize that. But what is very clear is that the sci-fi that I grew up with, the Star Trek universe that we imagined as kids, is now. It's happening now. We can talk to our computers, they can respond, they can do jobs for us. You'll see how even the holodeck is a thing right now. And I find that really exciting. And I think it's also a massive, massive opportunity for us all. Back when, we'll talk about that in a minute actually. The reason why, Carl, I was really pleased you mentioned that stat. There's a certain percentage of people that are just like, this is not good, this is not good. It's because human beings, for tens of thousands of years, have lived a linear life. We assume that today is going to pretty much turn out how tomorrow did, and how yesterday did, and tomorrow will be the same. We assume that our days and weeks and months and years are going to be pretty much the same, with incremental improvements as we go on if we're lucky. That's the human way. That's the way it's been for tens of thousands of years. That's how evolution works. We don't notice the changes. They just kind of creep up on us. Computer technology, however, since the 60s, Gordon Moore, co-founder of Intel, he noticed that every time he released a new computer chip, it was twice as powerful as the computer chip that he released a year before. But the cost of creating those computer chips had halved, which meant since the 60s, computer power has been doubling every year. He thought that would go on for about 10 years, but actually it only slowed down around 2018 to about every 18 months. So we're going along day by day in a linear way, and computer power is doubling every year. Like if I got a chessboard and I got a grain of rice on the first chessboard, and every square on the chessboard had double the number of grains of rice as the previous square, by the time I got to the last chessboard, apparently, I haven't done the maths, but I've been told there would be more grains of rice on that one square than have ever been cultivated in human agricultural history. That's the power of the doubling effect. That's why we're in the chaos and amazement stage. Since the 60s, computer power has been doubling, so what it can do now is mind-blowing. And it seems like magic, but it's not magic, and that's what we need to understand. So why do these things seem like they're alive? And what about my job? You can't help but see the immense power of this coming for us and sweeping us away, but I'm also here to assure you that it's not out for your job necessarily. So, what's going on? I'm going to sweep away the image side of things, and I'm going to talk about the large language models, because most of us working in offices are going to be interacting with things like ChatGPT and the other large language models. And that, honestly, when you're talking to a computer and it's talking back and it's asking how you're doing and it seems to understand, that's the thing that's most unnerving. So I want to peel back the curtain. Large language models are based on vectors. Now, a vector is basically, imagine a 3D space, a little bit like latitude and longitude, but in 3D space. So every part in that space has a number that relates to where it is in that 3D space. Every word in a large language model has other words related to it set out in 3D space. The closer to the word that other word is, the more it relates. So take a cup of coffee here. You might have words like caffeine or warm or drink or Starbucks, and something like balloon would have nothing to do with coffee and therefore would be way far away. You get this sensation, and of course each of those words have their own vectors and their own words that are related to it. So if you bring in another word like tea, you'll probably find that coffee and tea are fairly close together, and they'll have lots of similar words like warm and wet and drink and Starbucks. But you'll also have words that don't quite relate to each other in other ways. So you'll have this kind of space like planets in a solar system. And when you bring in a word that's completely different, like hammer and nails, they've got their own ecosystem, and then the hammer is nowhere near as close as the coffee. That's what a large language model is doing. They fed in thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of text. And it started to understand the connection between words, cat and kitten and pet and dog and puppy, all in this space. Imagine every word in several languages all occupying this space. That's what a large language model is. Now, what's incredible is, I've got another example here. Large language models were created for translation, okay, language translation. You can't, if you've done any kind of GCSE, I don't know, French or whatever, you can't just take a dictionary and swap a word out for the French version of it. It doesn't quite work. Go to German, the verbs are the wrong way around. It's all very confusing. So you can't just swap things out for translation. So they had to create a large language model so that it could understand context. Apple and apple in my slides example, completely different things, but it's the same word. So the transformer model, it reads a whole swathe of text and it looks at each word in turn and it looks at the context and the words surrounding it, and so suddenly it has inferred context and it has things that you've referred to previously and things you're probably going to refer to next. And by scanning this word, the large language model can very accurately predict what the most sensible next word in the sentence is going to be. And so when you're seeing an output from ChatGPT, it's just doing that over and over again. But the transformer models can have many, many, many agents doing this at once. So it's actually scanning words from lots of different points of view. And so suddenly we get these streams of text and it feels like it knows me and it feels like it knows way more than I know. And that's the magic. So that's what's going on when it comes to a large language model. Now, there's something called the Gartner hype curve. If you have a quick look at the slide here, every piece of technology that's ever invented has fired along the Gartner hype curve. So, first of all, it's launched, it's announced, everyone goes wild. Computers are going to change the world, right? The hype curve is way up. Suddenly you get the first computer. What can you do on it? You can play Pong. It's like, the 70s were pretty dull for computers, right? But gradually the technology starts to mature and we go up what I love is the slope of enlightenment, and until eventually they level off, right? We've experienced this with computers, yeah? Oh, we're going to talk about Clark Kent, okay. It always comes down to Superman with me in the end. I'm sorry, that's just how it goes. So what we see here with this Gartner hype curve, every piece of technology is following it. So AI, back in the 60s, we had HAL, 2001 Space Odyssey, all that kind of stuff. Wow, AI is going to be amazing. We're going to have these robots, C-3PO and all that in our houses. It's going to be amazing. Then, of course, it could do almost nothing. And we've had this really long slope of enlightenment, and now we're at that point where it's coming into our lives. Why is this important? Let's talk about Superman. I do recognise that I am showing my age by my actor choice here for Superman. Can we do a quick poll? Shout out, don't be polite. Clark Kent's superpowers. Go. X-ray vision, strength, flying. Come on, there's loads. Hearing, speed. One more. Super hearing. He's a nice guy, I like that one. Okay. Now, I've included this in every talk I've done since 2015, and not once has anyone ever said he's brilliant on Microsoft Word. No one has ever said he writes really polite but to the point emails. But he spends most of his days in the Daily Planet at his computer writing articles. Why is that? It's because Clark Kent's superpowers, the ones we really care about, have nothing to do with office admin, even though that's his day job. Lois Lane, on the other hand, is an incredible reporter and should be doing that stuff because those are her superpowers. But Clark Kent, we want him flying off and fighting Lex Luthor and doing all those amazing things. Each one of us is a superhero. We should all be flying in our careers. I would propose that almost none of us, when we entered those careers with the intention of doing admin. The admin is the means to the end. The admin is the thing we do so that we can get to and do the thing we want to do. And so far, Microsoft Word, writing emails, typing and all that kind of thing are the best way we've got of achieving those things. But imagine if we were all in our superpowers. Can you imagine how awesome we would be? How awesome would our offices be? I'm not just talking about the outfits. I'm talking about the things we could get done in the day. The kind of tools that are available right now, I'm not talking about available in the future, the kind of tools that are available right now promise to remove a good chunk of the admin from our days. Canva, creating graphics, a simple text, and it can create entire social media campaigns for you. Google Duet and also Microsoft Copilot, both are coming out in the next month or two. Take your entire Google Workspace suite or your entire Office suite, you can power it just with simple, natural language. If you have a quick look there on the screen, you'll see some of the things you can do. Instead of having to read an entire 20-person email thread, you can just get a summary of it. You can write a single, yes, okay, I'll do that, and it will write your email for you, so you don't have to worry about composing it. People just want to know what you think. They don't need to know how great you are at grammar. This is a mind shift that is going to take over everything we do in the office over the next year. This stuff is coming out next month. My workflow at the moment, a lot of my job involves scoping projects, okay, software projects. Generally, it takes me a week or two to do that until I brought AI right into the workflow. So now I run a 4-hour workshop. I record it on Zoom. I load the transcript into AI, which gives me a summary, the key points, the main requirements that the client wants. I bring that into ChatGPT, which extrapolates from the conversation a page for every single module I'm going to build in my piece of software. I then extract that out into a spreadsheet which sizes each particular feature and works out specifically technically what I need to do. Now it takes me a day to do one of those scopes if I'm stay focused. My client doesn't care that I used AI to do it. My client wants to know, how's this project going to work and how much is it going to cost me? They don't care how I did it. It's not the chances are. I know for sure that because I'm using AI, I actually don't forget stuff. I actually have more detail in my work. Now, it's really important to remember here that the aim is not to just go, yeah, go on AI, do that, I'm off to the beach. That's not how it works. But AI will probably get you 80% there. So the workflow I just described gets me the 80%. And then I and Jeannie go through it as humans, go through the writing, check the scope, check the sizing, check the costings. But that's the 20% left, which means we can do more of that. We can spend more time on the phone with our clients. We can spend more time with our team making sure that the quality is up to speed. Because my client doesn't care how long I spend writing that report. They just want the report. And that's the mindset I think is the mindset we should be bringing into our offices now. And that's why AI is Robin and not Batman. So where's it all going? I forgot to press my timer, so I've no idea how much time I've got left, Patricia. Finish now. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do a really, really, really quick sweep then. Okay. Charles Babbage in the 1800s created the analytical machine, the first ever computer. Ada Lovelace, the first ever programmer. Look at that machine. Can you imagine how easy it would be to write an email with that machine? ENIAC, these incredible women programmed using plugs, switches, because all we're doing when we're working our computers is switching ones and zeros. That's still all we're doing, switching ones and zeros. Still, you can even see the switches on the world's first home computer. Once the keyboard turned up, then all of a sudden we had a way of typing commands. So suddenly we weren't physically switching things. We were telling the computer to do things. But it was still really geeks like me back in the 80s that were doing that. A screen helped, but the mouse and the graphical interface suddenly brought it into our homes and accessible to everyone. And of course, that concept has iterated all the way through to the touch screen. And Siri, do I need an umbrella today? No, it's not going to rain today. Right. The next step. Voice. The next step, the voice recognition, the interaction with the computer. We don't need the keyboard so much. We don't need the mouse so much. And so the hardware that's also converging at this time. I'll go faster. I'm sure many of you have seen the new Apple Vision Pro. These headsets, suddenly you don't need a screen. Suddenly, the screen is where you need it to be and is as big as where you need it to be. Spatial computing with gestures and voice, that's where we're going next. So what that means is from having giant screens to having tiny screens to no screens. Ray-Ban have just teamed up with Meta and they've got AI built into their glasses. Frankly, I find the idea of a pair of glasses with a camera creepy. But the fact that there's AI in a set of glasses that can recognize your voice, it will be no time at all before all of a sudden these glasses are projecting screens. Which means that the office suddenly is an office with no screens and we're just talking to our computers and they're doing the work. And agents are behaving like travel agents. Sort me out an itinerary for my trip to London next week and it will book the hotels and it will book the cars and it will book the restaurants. That's where it's going. You don't need to do that. No one cares how much time you spend booking your hotels. You just need to get to the hotel. So let the AI do that. And that's where it's all going. Glasses like this, I don't notice I'm wearing my glasses. I'm sure within the next 5 years, this will be our computer. Hopefully without the camera, though. I do think that's creepy. So, to summarize, your job won't be taken by AI. But if we're not careful, it will be taken by someone who uses AI. Be the Batman. Get Robin in there. Computers in the workplace leveled the playing field for small businesses. The internet leveled the playing field again. AI has just leveled it again. And the pieces haven't settled yet. It's our opportunity as a region to go for that land grab. Everything that we're doing in our businesses has the opportunity to be massively leveled up, and there are lots and lots of people who haven't even thought about doing this in at work. So that's the opportunity. Be that someone.